this weekend.
Joe Flacco's number 5, Greeny. Joe Flacco showed that the Bengals season is not done yet. They play a New York Jets team. Flacco should be able to light it up again. If they get the win, they're suddenly 4-4 in an AFC North that has a struggling Browns, struggling Ravens, and we'll see on Sunday, but potentially a struggling Steelers team. Joe Flacco could save this season for the Bengals. Mike McDaniel's number 4. We know things aren't going well, but things can go down real fast here. If they lose to the Falcons in a fashion that really doesn't instill any confidence, they have the Bills and the Ravens the next 2 weeks. You're looking at a potential 1-9 start. Mike McDaniel trying to keep things together, but a trip to Atlanta, where he used to coach as an assistant, could be interesting. Andy Dalton is number 3. If you saw, Bryce Young has been at practice, but necessarily has been working with the ones. Dalton might very well go Sunday against the Bills. And imagine that. A, if the Panthers can win and improve their record to 5-3, they're right in the mix. And then B, if Andy Dalton beats the Buffalo Bills, what conversations are we having Monday about Buffalo? Number 2, I was there Monday night. C.J. Stroud does not look like the C.J. Stroud of old, and I don't know if it's him, if it's the receivers, if it's the offensive line. The Texans have a huge one this weekend. If C.J. Stroud and the Texans struggle again on offense, we have to really look in the mirror and look at offseason decisions and what is wrong with this offense. Texans have been to the divisional round 2 years in a row. Number 1, we're talking a lot about Rodgers. We're talking a lot about Love. Micah Parsons had his Micah Parsons game last week. 3 sacks, a huge performance against Arizona, 11 pressures. This guy might blow up the entire narrative about Love versus Rodgers. And as much as we are going to get goosebumps over Aaron Rodgers playing against that Packers logo, it could be Micah Parsons who ruins the entire night for everyone, and 100%. It becomes his game.
That's really well done. He's the best player on the field, right? Micah Parsons is the best player on the field. Let me get Bartholomew in here and the rest of the group, because, Bart, we're talking about Micah Parsons, and you pick up that ball and run with it because you think Parsons opens it up for someone else to be the key factor in this game.
Absolutely. We talk about balance, and I think Rashawn Gary's going to play a key role. He's on pace for his, a career high, in sacks. He's got 5.5 sacks, and I think that Mike Tomlin understands that Michael Parsons is a game record, and they're going to do what they need to do. Darnell Washington, when you play a jumbo package, they'll double him, they'll chip him on both sides. They understand, especially coming off the type of game that they had last week. And I think Michael Parsons has been the perfect complement to Rashawn Gary, that sometimes people forget that he's a $100 million pass rusher, and he's a first-round draft pick, a high first-round draft pick.
So, J-Mac, you're Aaron Rodgers. You obviously know this. Not that you played with Micah Parsons, but you watch it all week long and all the rest of that.
Yeah.
They get after the quarterback as well as anybody. So what is the key for Rodgers in his revenge rematch?
Well, what he's been doing all season long, getting the ball out of his hands quick. We've seen a little bit of a change in their offense, getting it out quick to DK Metcalf and those guys on the outside. But then also, you look at Micah Parsons' game last week, the Arizona Cardinals decided to block him one-on-one. I can guarantee you Rodgers is going to make sure if Micah Parsons is blocked one-on-one, he is throwing the ball in less than 2 seconds. When you're 40 years old, Greeny, you don't want to be hit. You want to feel good the next day. You don't have to walk around with a massager and doing all of that stuff. Rodgers not going through all of that. He's going to make sure he stays clean.
My Theragun. That's it. That's it. I bring that to the meeting every single morning. Everyone gets a good laugh out of it, but I tell you what, I feel refreshed. We talked a little bit earlier about trade deadline stuff.
Yeah.
Right, A.J. Brown, and I don't mean him specifically in this conversation, but it was brought up yesterday. The Steelers could really use another receiver. They got DK on one side. They get Calvin Austin back, but they could really – do we expect them to be active, maybe looking to make – I know it's un-Steeler-like, but they've done a lot of un-Steeler-like
No doubt,
things.
and this is the Omar Khan era. It's a different era than what it was over the last several decades. So I would always look at the Steelers, who were aggressive this offseason, obviously trading for DK Metcalf, but bringing in all that talent on defense, too. Some veteran guys like Darius Slay and Deshaun Elliott re-upping him. This is one of those deals where it's a trade deadline where every team is no one's running away with things and no one's really falling apart except for the Jets. So a lot of teams might be buyers, some might be sellers.
I feel like that was aimed at Bart and me. I don't know. I took it. I took that personally. I'm the other side. So it's all about Rodgers, and it's all about Micah Parsons, and then there's Jordan Love. And not that he's the forgotten person of this, because he was sort of the instigator of everything that began in the first place. But there's a big spotlight on him. What's the key for him on Sunday
I'll say number one, you better make sure if you're Matt LaFleur that he's protected. Even though the Pittsburgh Steelers at times they've struggled rushing the passer, they still have a TJ Watt, a Nick Herbig, and also other guys that can get after the quarterback. If you're Jordan Love, you say to yourself, I just seen Joe Flacco throw for over 300 yards and multiple touchdowns versus this secondary. You have to be licking your chops. So I think this is an opportunity for Jordan Love to really thrive versus this secondary of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Bart, who are these? You played in that black and blue division all those years. who are these guys wearing Steeler uniforms on defense, and what have they done with all of these stars that we have watched play all these
Well, it's
years?
like grumpy old men. Like sometimes we forget that these guys are past their prime. They're on the back end of their prime, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to play. I don't think they're going to go one-on-one like they did. I think last week proved a lot when you look at Ramsey, you look at Slay, that they're good players, but they have to be protected as well. But I think that, they're waiting for T.J. Watt to get busy, and that's going to be the key to see if the Steelers defense can come
So
back.
another major component to this ball game, Josh Jacobs is a really good running back. The Steelers have also struggled versus the run.
Yeah, the Steelers defense has just been terrible. Put the pics on the screen if you could, Ronnie, because we could see, because Aaron Rodgers needs all the motivation he can get.
But listen, the Steelers were 3 for 4 in the red zone, and they put up 31 points last week. And they're going to have a personnel advantage because you don't have a lot of packages as a defense when somebody comes out with 3 tight ends. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to match up. Do I pull in the safety and take out a corner and force those corners to have to tackle?
Knowing Aaron Rodgers, this whole week he has done a master class on just the love and the sentimental feelings and how much he wants to win this game. Trust me. As much as it's all about how much he really loved being a Packer, this is one, and he's seeing that graphic right there, you better believe the Steelers locker room is seeing it.
That's right. Everyone in Green Bay is like, oh, no.
I know.
Why did they put that up there? Just the last thing they needed. Test, right? He has the big explosive game last week. He catches the huge touchdown at the very end, finishes the game. Then all of a sudden, Wednesday and Thursday, he's not practicing with a hamstring. Yeah. What's going on?
With a curious Instagram post after a first big game. So there's a lot of people putting together like True Detective, like, okay, what's going on here? I'm told it's a real injury, and he's just resting it, and there's still a very good chance he plays Sunday against the Giants. We'll track practice here. You start looking ahead, though, and I know there's been a lot of talk about the trade deadline, and if you Google any article, A.J. Brown's the first name. I would just say this. Knowing Howie Roseman, as well as I know Howie Roseman, Eagles are usually a team that looks to acquire assets, not ship them off. I don't get the feeling that A.J. Brown is necessarily going to be traded. I would say this, though. There will be teams who will be calling leading up to that deadline. This would be a huge asset for a lot of squads. Hamstring, I'm only taking them on their word. They're saying it's an injury. Let's see on Sunday at kickoff if he's on the field or not.
An important point to make here, and Joe just ran through how much they've struggled running the football this year. They've gotten almost nothing out of the running game that was one of the best in the history of the sport last year. And we were talking this morning over breakfast. A.J. Brown's numbers last week look very good. And obviously, the 2 touchdowns speak for themselves. But they still weren't really featuring him in the offense the way we assume he wants.
Yeah, only 2 plays, in my opinion, where they actually feature A.J. Brown. It was the sluggo at the end of the game on 3rd and 9. He caught that one, and also the outside post that he caught for a touchdown. You look at the very first touchdown, Greeny, it was more of a scramble drill. Jalen Hurts saying, hey, go deep, A.J. Brown, I'm going to throw it to you. And then it was a 3rd and 15 where Jalen Hurts scrambled to the right side of the sidelines and then threw it to A.J. Brown as well. So only 2 plays, or 2 of his catches, I would say, were really distinguished to throw the ball to A.J. Brown. That might mean something, in my opinion.
So, J-Mac, I found myself, as I was watching that game, thinking, does this have to be the recipe? Like, Jalen Hurts played great. Yeah. And they actually have put more on his plate. Hembo gave me a stat earlier this week as far as percentage of the offense for a team. Jalen Hurts is right now #1 in the entire league. They're counting on him for a greater percentage of their offense than any other team is counting on their quarterback, which is the last thing you usually expect with him.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the recipe if this team is going to repeat? Is it going to be because they throw the ball and not run it?
It has to be. You're watching, and Joe just hit on it. They can't run the ball right now, and it's not just because Saquon Barkley has taken a step back or anything of that nature. They're not blocking as well, so there is no area, and there's no room to run in that area. So they're going to have to throw the ball more. And I think as we talk about A.J. Brown and the trade deadline and all of those things, you have to start to question whether the marriage of him and Jalen Hurts, whether it works. And it was a great ride. You could have won a Super Bowl, and it may be time where you're looking at these 2 guys, and maybe they don't have the relationship that you need to continue to prosper and make plays down the field and all that. So, Schrags, I think to your point, yes, Howie has always acquired talent. If his hamstring is really hurt, that's one thing. If he's not, there's a lot going on that you start to question and say, hey, if it's not going to work, do you try to get something out of it?
It doesn't pass the smell test.
Right.
And that's fair to question. And Eagles people might look at us watching it right now and text me and say, what are you doing starting this? Guys, it doesn't pass the smell test, and that's fair to say.
Greeny, I struggled with this one all season long through 7 games, but after watching last week, I said, okay, I have to stop being boneheaded. Every single season is different. And what the Philadelphia Eagles did last year through the run game doesn't have any bearing on 2025. I do believe they have to play through the pass game like J-Mac just mentioned.
The problem is you watch them throwing those moon balls. That's not sustainable. It was moon ball after moon ball, and sometimes it works, and then everyone says, hey, Hurts looks fantastic. And then other times when the moon ball isn't there, he's not going over the middle. You need more depth and variety to the passing game.
I agree with that.
Any other picks that we should know about here? As we put the picks up on the screen.
You always have.
So this is a bit odd because we just trashed the passing game, but I'd lay the 7.5 with Philadelphia here in a quick roundabout. Go back to 2000. This is an interesting spot. These two are meeting for the second time in 3 weeks. When you see that happen, the team that lost the first game covers the spread over 60% of the time the next time out because they make the adjustments where the winning team just assumes